Anandamayi Chaitanyamayi Satyamayi Parame Satyamayi Parame Satyamayi Parame Satyam Jnanam Satyam Jnanam Jyoti Aravinda Jyoti Aravinda Jyoti Aravinda. So, Sri Aurobindo says that all problems of existence are essentially problems of harmony, right? So, what is it that creates disharmony amongst us as human beings? Um, what's happening in Bombay today, a classic example of disharmony, when the answer is obvious, when we feel separate from others, when we feel we want something for ourselves which is going to others, like the group which is demanding something for their community, and they feel others are getting it, I'm not. So basically, when we feel separate from others, that's what creates disharmony amongst us. So, what is the solution to that disharmony? It's to somewhere, even in a mental way, in whatever way, reclaim the oneness that we are. So long as we feel separate from others, so long as we feel that others are getting what we want, etc., there's constantly going to be disharmony amongst us. Um, I mean, of course, the morcha that's happening in Bombay today is at a macro level. But in a micro level, so many times we are on an inner strike against a family member, against something that's happened. Because essentially we feel we are here, there's another person outside our skin who's in one way or the other trying to harm us. And that's where we go wrong. So we explore the theme of our talk today, shining in oneness. So sometimes stories explain things far better than words, isn't it? So we are going to begin with a story. It's a story by Sister Gargi. It's a story about an osprey. An osprey is a high flying bird, and this is the story of Ajay the osprey. Okay, so Ajay was born to parents, and from the beginning, he showed exceptional promise. He flew higher than other ospreys, and he was capable of doing various things which other birds of flight couldn't do. So, this is an excerpt from the story. You can open your PDF and follow if you like. As Ajay grew and his wing muscles became strong, he flew off alone more and more often, loving the solitude of the sky, where he could think about the sky itself and its endlessness. He thought about infinity, and the thought made him restless to know what it could be. One day he rose higher and yet higher on a strong thermal. The trees below became like shrubs, and then like grass, then like dots of dark green. He seemed to himself to be on a level with highest snow peaks, of which his parents had told him, and in that rarefied air, his lungs felt as though they might burst. He knew his mother would be frantic if she guessed where he was. But in the exhilaration of flight, in the crystal beauty of the empty sky, in the light filled silence and total solitude, all that took place at a lower altitude was as nothing to him without meaning. There was only himself and the shining sky. And then suddenly he slipped through a crack, and there was only an infinite living joy. He was a vast being, an endless bliss without boundary. How long he remained in that state, there was no telling. But when he again became aware of being centered in his body, he knew that he had touched the infinite. He continued to soar for a while, suffused with bliss, as the sky is suffused with color after the sun has set. Then he folded his wings and plummeted back to earth in a long free fall, expertly pulling out of it just in time to prevent his death. Unfortunately, his parents had not guessed where he was and were not looking. So, this is a story of how Ajay the osprey one day was flying in the sky, and through a crack he went into infinity. He found his way into infinity. So, Ajay the osprey really represents each one of us, and how sometimes in moments when we are quiet, we suddenly open up into something more than ourselves, a window through which we find the oneness that we are. Now, this is beautifully described by Sri Aurobindo's Savitri, these lines. It's page 319. The one consciousness that made the world was seen, like Ajay did. All now was luminosity and force, abolished in its last, thin, fainting trace. The circle of the little self was gone. The separate being could no more be felt. It disappeared and knew itself no more. Lost in the spirit's wide identity, his nature grew a movement of the all, exploring itself to find that all was he. His soul was a delegation of the all that turned from itself to join the one supreme. So his soul was a delegation of the all. The all is oneness, and oneness appears to be two-ness so that it can find itself back. Now, coming back to the story of Ajay. So, Ajay the osprey, a high flying bird, was once flying in the sky, and through a crack, he found himself in an infinite dimension of complete oneness. Now, as the story goes, he was enrolled in a birds flying school, and he excelled there so much that he got a double promotion. And then his teachers felt that fine, we can't teach him anymore. So he was recommended to go to a professional flying school away from his home city. So when he first reached there, he saw birds doing all kinds of acrobatics, and for the first time, it occurred to him that there can be better birds than me. And that's sometimes a tough lesson for all of us when we are sheltered, and sometimes in our own house we feel we are the best, we get the limelight, etc. But when we step out, we go out of our bubble, we'll always see that there are people better than us. And that's sometimes very frightening. So Ajay got very scared and he didn't come out of his nest. And there was one teacher, another osprey called Sanyal, assigned to him. So Sanyal came and told him that come out, don't let these show offs scare you, come for your training. So somehow with Sanyal, Ajay came out and he started training. And by, Ajay was anyway very gifted. So he again started learning the ropes. He started doing very, very well. And soon he was up for a competition and he was the talk among the other birds. And there was another osprey called Ahmad. And Ahmad saw that Ajay was stiff competition for him. So one morning when Ajay was practicing his somersaults, Ahmad attacked him and pecked him with his beak. And Ajay took a while to realize what was happening, but then he felt such rage coming up into him that with all his might he attacked Ahmed, and both were really wounding each other by the time Sanyal came and separated them. And then Ajay was very crestfallen and he told Sanyal, I'm not coming to fly anymore. And Sanyal said, why? Are you scared of Ahmed? So Ajay said, no, I'm not scared of Ahmed, but what I'm more ashamed of is the huge surge of anger that came into me when I was attacked. That anger felt so horrible in me that I don't want to set up myself for another time when somebody will bring out this kind of anger in me. So then now I'm coming back to the story in the author's words. So Sanyal and Ajay are talking. Why? Ajay asked, why? He has been jealous of you from the start, Sanyal replied. Now you're a real threat to him. Jealous of me? Look, Sanyal said evenly. You have had a taste of how it will be out in the world. It is a lesson you had to learn. Consider it as part of your training, the final exercise. You have to be prepared for that kind of attack, always alert. If you're going to compete, you'll have to expect jealousy, trickery. Anyhow, you proved yourself to be a good fighter. The ugliness of competition, the sudden vision of a lifetime of guarding against vicious attacks out of the blue struck Ajay with a stab sharper than any physical pain from his wounds. He felt his heart break. He knew he could never know again the wild, abandoned joy of free flying, always alert. And worse, there was the uncovered well of his own violence. Now, all of us face this sometimes, isn't it? In the beginning, for many of us, studying, learning, it's joyful, it's exploring. But then, when we get into competition, when we are always on our guard of others going against us, we face politics in school, at work, everywhere. And then we also lose the joy of just doing what we are doing for the joy of it. So we lose our capacity to free fly. I can't live that kind of life, Ajay said. I won't. It is the life you came for, Sanyal replied, the life you have spent 3 years training for. I came here to learn to fly, not to fight. Well, you're going to settle down then and raise a family? Ajay shuddered. Never, he exclaimed. The householder's life can be a good life, Sanyal went on. There can be greatness in it. A devout and selfless householder can realize the infinite. Ajay looked up at him sharply. He had never told his friend of his youthful experience or of the deepest longing of his heart. Nor had Sanyal ever mentioned such matters before, because Sanyal said you can realize the infinite, as if he knew that Ajay had realized the infinite earlier during his flight. So I could never be a householder, he said more calmly. The very idea suffocates me. Tied wing and foot to a nest, hatching eggs, feeding babies who will hatch eggs and feed babies, who will hatch eggs and feed babies who will. It's going on for millions and millions of years and will go on for millions and millions more. No. In the morning, he was awake. So now we take a break from this and I'll tell you the rest of the story myself. So now Sanyal tells Ajay, okay, so if you don't want to continue training at the flying school for birds and you don't want to be a householder, then would you like to be a monk? And he sends him to a bird monk monastery. But when he meets the monk assesses him and says, you will never be happy here because I can feel it in your being that you're a virtuoso flyer. You're an expert flyer. And if whole day you're just going to be cooped up in a monastery, you're never going to be happy. So now Ajay is lost. He can't go to a monastery. He can't go back to his flying school. So he says, what should I do? So Sanyal says, just take a break, go back home, and maybe you'll find your way or the way will find you. Now, on his way home, this is what happened. He saw that a kite had a piece of fish in its mouth and a bunch of crows were attacking it. So immediately, the crows dove after it, fighting fiercely among themselves. The kite flew to Ajay's tree and perched next to him unconcerned. And then, when the crows continued to attack the kite just dropped the fish so that the crows would stop attacking the kite and go after the fish. So Ajay exclaimed, you dropped it. Right, the kite said. You just dropped it. You said that. Of course I dropped it. It's only a scrap of fish. It's not me. It's only a scrap of fish. It's not me. Ajay sighed deeply. I wish it were that easy, he said, and let his head hang. The darkness of his midnight resolve swept over him, and he pictured his body crashing into the ground, lying broken and lifeless on some empty field. So much for Ajay the flyer, Ajay the trophy winner, Ajay the monk, Ajay the this, Ajay the that, he thought with sorrow. All crashed, gone. As he brooded over that limp, solitary body, he saw in his mind several pariah vultures circle over it, land near it, and hop awkwardly towards it. He cried out, keep away. And then, quite suddenly, the words of the kite, who still sat calmly next to him, struck through his mind like a bolt of lightning. It's not me. The scene of his imagination became for an indelible second brilliantly illuminated. The pitiful white and brown rags of his body, the huge ungainly vultures closing in on it to tear it with their beaks, and he himself looking on, sitting beside the kite untouched. It's not me, he said aloud with something like joy. What say? The kite asked. It's not me. The kite cocked his head at him. Of course, it's not you, silly. I mean, but the kite flew off without waiting to hear what Ajay meant. So sometimes God has different languages with which He talks to us. So when Ajay was feeling crestfallen, this whole scene of the kite dropping the fish, and the fish was, in that sense, the kite's identity. And Ajay told the kite that you just dropped it. And the kite said, yeah, I dropped it, but that's not me. And Ajay took it to be dropping the fish is dropping identity with the body, remembering that it's not me. So that was an aha moment for Ajay. He felt the joy rising within him, his depression falling away. He rose from the branch into the sky and headed northwest, forgetting that he had been going to see his parents. He flew back across the plains, crossing over village after village, and as his elation rose, he now and then performed some loops and cartwheels for the sheer rapture of it. On one of these occasions, he glanced down and saw that he was over a small village of mud huts and trees. He noticed that a number of villagers stood watching him with delight in their upturned faces. Without giving it much thought, he entered into a prolonged exhibition, performing his best aerial acrobatics, losing himself in the beauty and ease of his art. And when he had finished, he knew that his own joy and joy of the villagers as they watched him was one and the same. He felt light as though chunks of lead had dropped from his heart. So, this is so beautiful. When we do something without expecting a payback, without feeling that, oh, I want somebody to see me and appreciate me, then when they appreciate you, their joy becomes one with your joy. It's not me and you. We are part of one movement of joy, one God movement. And there is no sense of I'm better than you because I'm looking good in your eyes. There's no desire to show off. Whenever there's a desire to show off, immediately there's a separation. But here, Ajay had reclaimed his youth joy of just flying without the need to be appreciated, without the need to look good. And his joy doubled. Suppose he'd done the same thing out of ego and everyone had clapped for him, he'd have felt happy. But this joy, what he felt when there was no ego, when he was just letting his swabhav, what was natural to him, outflow to bring beauty to the earth, the joy that filled him was a million times more than that egoistic joy. So, Mother says it very beautifully that a flower just blossoms and blooms unselfishly without really wanting to impress anyone or without wanting anything in return for its gift of beauty. So she says, human beings, there's a corruption. We do everything wanting an egoistic payback. We want to do good to be appreciated as good people. We want to look beautiful to get appreciation. Everything is done because we want something back. And Mother says this is one of the ugliest things in human beings, this wanting to get something back. And Mother says that if human beings could do consciously what a flower does unconsciously, that will be the beginning of the new creation. When we can spontaneously blossom for the joy of blossoming, not to preen, not to show off, not to look beautiful in people's eyes. So now he did not linger for applause, but circled the village, resting on the air, barely moving his wings. As he glided, he saw that a small boy standing alone in a yard was holding out his arms to him. Ajay flew to a low branch of a mango tree and from there looked down at the little boy whose upturned face was beaming with affection. His eyes were huge and as lustrous as a lake in moonlight. As Ajay looked into their depths, he lost outward consciousness and once again slipped for a timeless moment through a crack into an infinite joy. So beautiful. When had Ajay disappeared into this crack earlier? When he was flying in the sky, when he was alone. But this time he felt the oneness of love. He felt a shared moment of joy with a fellow being. And that's when that love opened that crack and he fell into infinity. When the moment passed and he was again centered in himself, he knew that his flying had always been and would ever be a celebration of a boundless being, of which he and everything else was somehow, in some dreamlike way, connected paths. Of course, he thought, it has always been so. An almost overwhelming love flowed between himself and the village boy, who still stood with his arms uplifted. He flew down into those arms and was held close to the boy's bare chest. For another long moment, Osprey and the boy were one. Then the boy opened his arms and, with a slight boost, gave Ajay back to the sky. So beautiful. This little bit of the story brings out the essence of love. If we find anything beautiful, we want to make it our own. We want to pluck that flower and bring it home. But this boy and Osprey shared a moment of such intense love that the boy had no attachment. He shared that moment of oneness and complete love with Ajay. And then, with all the love in his heart, he released him into the sky. That is love. Love is space. Love is letting go. Love is free from attachment. But the human love we know is attachment and neediness. It's not really the actual love of oneness which we are capable of. He flew on, scarcely conscious that he was flying. His wings seemed to be movements of the air itself, effortless, unwilled. That night he roosted in a forest of the foothills, and at the first light of dawn headed towards the college. So he decided not to go home. He headed back to his flying college. As he approached, he saw in the distance, as he had seen almost 3 years earlier, small shining specks whirling against the backdrop of the rosy snow peaks. He knew now what they were, his fellow students performing their dazzling acrobatics in the early morning sun, catching the light on their wings. He was struck by the beauty of those free flying forms, twisting and spinning and looping like shards of crystal flung into the air by some ecstatic dancer. The thought that they were better than he or that he was better than they did not even brush the surface of his mind. Felt only awe at the wonder and beauty of the sight. Now, this was very significant to me when I read it because earlier, when he hadn't experienced this oneness, remember when he came first to the flying school and he saw these birds doing all this, it filled him with fear and inadequacy. That, oh my God, I'm less than them. Because there was separation. But now that he knew that he was one with everything, seeing beauty anywhere filled him with joy. He never had the thought that, oh my God, I'm not so beautiful. For him now, Sri Aurobindo's words that beauty is his footprint, showing us where he has passed, were true. Wherever he saw beauty, he saw the footprint of God and he rejoiced without thinking, oh my God, that's not me. What will happen to me? All that was gone. And it would be so beautiful if in our school situation, if when we are competing with people, instead of feeling threatened by them, we are jealous of them because they are doing something very well, right? And they've whatever. Why not use them as role models? Why not see the beauty of the Creator in them and rejoice in it? So that's why I started the talk saying Sri Aurobindo says that all problems of existence are essentially problems of harmony. So, when I feel oneness, it naturally brings a harmony to my being. The jagged edges of separation, egoism, all that is completely lost. So take a moment with eyes open or shut. Visualize this moment of Ajay seeing all these birds who are flying so beautifully, and suddenly he's not feeling, am I better than them? Are they better than me? He's just enjoying the beauty of their movements. So sometimes when I'm with people and somebody is cracking jokes for which they are getting appreciated, am I joining in with gusto or am I thinking, oh my God, I'm not as funny as her and resenting it? Or if somebody else is getting attention, am I constantly just relating it to myself and thinking, I'm not getting it? And so losing out on the joy of the moment. Can I put a will that next time that happens, Mother gives me the grace to be different instead of this constant self regard, which is my prison? Instead of constantly thinking, how do I look in people's eye vis a vis this situation, this conversation, to forget how I look and just enjoy the humor, the beauty, whatever it is that the moment brings, without bringing my ego into it. If I see two people I love exchanging a special moment, can I appreciate the flow of love between them and rejoice in it? Instead of constantly thinking, oh, I'm not part of the flow, so this flow is wrong. It's wrong only in my conditioned mind. May I have the grace for this conditioning to be reversed. May I be like Ajay, looking at the marvelous flight of other birds and feeling the joy of God in seeing them. At length, he reached the college itself. No one, neither instructors nor students, seemed to know what he had that he had been gone, though to himself his 2 day absence seemed a lifetime. Only Sanyal knew it. Welcome back, he said. Long time no see. And when they were alone, he looked deep into Ajay's eyes and announced, so you have found the other way. So Ajay was stuck, no? He didn't want to be a monk, he didn't want to be a householder, and he didn't want to get back to competition. But now his teacher, who was obviously clairvoyant, looking into his eyes, could see that Ajay had found another way. So Ajay was silent for a moment. Then suddenly he flew a few feet straight up into the air and re landed on the branch where they were sitting. Yes, he cried, yes. He knew that he need say no more. Sanyal somehow understood everything that had happened. You will graduate with your class? Sanyal asked. Yes. And then? I don't know, Ajay said lightly. Everything, whatever comes. Sanyal nodded. Yes, he said, whatever. But whatever it is, let it shine. Hence the title of our talk, Shining in Oneness. Yes, he said, whatever. But whatever it is, let it shine. Let there be no glue on it anywhere. Fly free. This is the key to doing anything. Whatever I do, let me shine and let there be no glue on it anywhere. What does it mean to have no glue on it anywhere? When does our doing have a glue on it, has a stickiness to it? Any answers? Yeah,
When you have a when you have a sense of ego.
very good. When you have a sense of ego, when there's a feeling of wanting fruit of your result, wanting to be appreciated, then your doing has a yes, Siddhi, to gain validation. Then our doing has a stickiness to it. And then we don't enjoy because instead of focusing on what we are doing, we are focusing on how our doing is being received by people. And then that takes away the joy of doing it, right? So these are actually, it's a concept of the Gita also, no? Nishkam karm, do everything without attachment, without wanting the fruit of your result. The fruit of your result can be the joy of doing it, provided you're doing it for your joy, not for validation, not for approval, not for outer success. And that's very difficult to do because our whole conditioning is otherwise. So we have to work very hard to decondition that, to do it just for the joy. So I remember I had attended a talk of Natkarni ji. Now he's moved on, but he was the most brilliant speaker on Savitri. So once he had shared that at my talks on Savitri, I think he used to give it at a particular place. Sometimes there are 100 people and sometimes there are two. But my joy of conducting the Savitri talk is equal, whether there are two people, whether there are 100. Because obviously his joy wasn't in outer validation. His joy was just in being with Savitri and offering it to the mother. So, I mean, there are a lot of young people on this group. We often put up posts on media. And how many of us put it up and then don't care about how many likes we get? Very difficult, right? If I did it just for the joy of doing it, I want the joy of capturing a beautiful moment, then that's it. Whether two people give it a like or 200, I'm not bothered. That's when I'll really enjoy doing it. Otherwise, the constant looking for how my action was received by people will dilute my actual joy in doing it, isn't it? So these are brilliant words. Yes, he said, whatever, do whatever you like, whatever it is, let it shine. Let there be no glue on it anywhere. Fly free, free of attachment. It was the first time Sanyal had spoken to him with the penetrating, authoritative tone of a guru. Whatever you call yourself, he went on, flyer, householder, monk, or anything else, let go. Fly free, fly free. That's the only way there is to crack the sky. You know, in the beginning, he'd fallen into infinity through a crack in the sky. So he's saying the only way to crack the sky, to feel infinity in day to day living, Sri Aurobindo says, no, all life is yoga. Or make of your daily way a pilgrimage through small sorrows and joys thou movest towards God. So you'll be one with the infinite if whatever you do it disregarding your search for validation through the doing. Hearing those words from Sanyal, Ajay felt the last piece of lead drop away. A vast and weightless joy flooded through him. And for a moment out of time, he knew that that joy was himself and he it. So that is who we really are, that infinite joy, that one being who is infinite joy. Now, Sri Aurobindo's words from Savitri, page 324. None was apart, none lived for himself alone. Sri Aurobindo was talking about the new creation. So, for those of you who are new to Sri Aurobindo's thoughts, as a couple of you are, Sri Aurobindo says that man is a transitional being. Man has to evolve to the next species, the supramental species, who will function without thought, just out of an intuition of truth. So in Savitri, there's a canto called House of the New Creation, where he's described how we'll be when the ego is gone and we are living out of oneness. And it's the most beautiful description of oneness. He says, none was apart, none lived for himself alone. Each lived for God in him and God in all. So everyone was in a state of constant self giving. They didn't think of themselves. They lived for God in him and God in all. Each soulness inexpressibly held the whole. Their oneness was not tied to monotone. Monotone is one color. So everyone was manifested in a wide variety. It wasn't that everyone was one in form. So their oneness was not tied to monotone. It showed 1,000 aspects of itself. Its calm, immutable stability, abode on a changeless ground, forever safe, compelled to a spontaneous servitude, the ever changing, incalculable steps, the seeming reckless dance's subtle plan of immense world forces in their perfect play. Appearance looked back to its hidden truth and made of difference oneness's smiling play. So, appearance, we all appear different, but appearance looked back to its hidden truth. There's a truth hidden behind appearance, the truth of oneness. So, appearance looked back to its hidden truth and made of difference oneness's smiling play. Difference was a play of oneness. Two-ness was an emanation of oneness. It wasn't separate from oneness. It made all persons fractions of the unique. So beautiful. The unique is that one God consciousness. So every person was a fraction of the unique. Yet all were being secret integers. So in appearance, we are fractions. But in essence, we are a whole number, an integer of the being, or yet all were being secret integers. So beautiful. This line is so exceptional. It made all persons fractions of the unique. Yet all were beings secret integers. All struggle was turned to a sweet strife of love. In the harmonized circle of a sure embrace, identity's reconciling happiness gave a rich security to difference. These are also gorgeous lines. Identity's reconciling happiness. Because I feel one with everyone, my identity is with everyone, and that gives me joy and that makes me secure in being different from others. This came out in Ajay's story, right? When he came back after his experience of oneness and he saw the other birds flying, their expertise didn't threaten him because he felt one with them. So, identity's reconciling happiness gave a rich security to difference. I can be different from them, but I'm still one with them, and in that is my security. All turn to all without, now page 325, Savitri. All turn to all without reserves recoil. So sometimes we have a reserve when we are interacting with each other. I don't want to give you too much. Suppose you become better than me. I don't like you mixing too much with that one. Suppose you like her more than me. So that's a reserve. But in this new creation, all turn to all without reserves recoil. A single ecstasy without a break. Love was a close and thrilled identity in the throbbing of all that luminous life. Now, this exceptional words of Rumi, Mevlana Rumi, the stars come up spinning every night, bewildered in love. They'd grow tired with that revolving if they weren't. They'd say, how long do we have to do this? God picks up the reed flute. It's REED, reed flute world, and blows. Each note is a need coming through one of us. So Rumi is saying that each of us is a reed, a hollow blade of grass, through which God is blowing a unique tune. God picks up the reed flute world and blows. Each note is a need coming through one of us, a passion, a longing pain. Remember the lips where the wind breath originated, and let your note be clear. Don't try to end it, be your note. I'll show you how it's enough. Go up on the roof at night in the city of the soul. Let everyone climb on their roofs and sing their notes, sing aloud. So that's what Ajay discovered. What was his path? When he came back, Sanyal asked him, so you found the other path? And Ajay said, yes. What was his other path? His other path was to find his note and sing it with abandon. His note was flying. He now didn't fly for competition. He didn't fly to be better than others. He didn't fly to receive awards. He flew simply for the joy of flying. And each of us have a uniqueness, which a unique instrument to play, which only we can play. And no instrument is better or worse in God's eyes. Every instrument is equally important. In men's eyes, of course, a king is more important and a cobbler is less important. But Sri Aurobindo writes so beautifully for the purposes of your soul. It's better to be a competent and efficient cobbler than to be a foolish and incompetent king. Yeah, for your soul, if you play your instrument of being a cobbler really well, you'll grow more than being a king who's incompetent and not really good at what he does. So each of us has to find our instrument to play in life and play it. So that's what Rumi's saying. Be your note. I'll show you how it's enough. Go up on the roof at night. Roof means the summit of your being, the highest point of your being. And at night, night is when maybe life is dark, maybe when the way is confused. Through the night, go to the summit of your being in this city of the soul. Let everyone climb on their roofs, the summit of their being, and sing their notes. Sing aloud. In this manifestation, we should never hold ourselves back. Whatever we are meant to do it, let us do it from our highest, let us do it our best without thinking of who's better, who's worse, because actually there is no better and worse. Each of us are unique, each of our instrument to play in life is unique. So actually, there is no competition. It's a beautiful piece by Rumi. Now, Sri Aurobindo's words, page 250, 251 of Synthesis of Yoga. Sri Aurobindo says there must be no egoism of any kind in the attitude of the instrument, even when we are fully conscious of the greatness of the force within us. Every man is knowingly or unknowingly the instrument of a universal power. And apart from the inner presence, there is no such essential difference between one action and another, one kind of instrumentation and another, as would warrant the folly of an egoistic pride. So Sri Aurobindo saying, if I am the leader, an egoistic leader, I'll feel my role is more important than my subordinates. But in the realm of the spirit, all of humanity is one team, and the leader is as important as a peon. Both have their roles to play, and both have their place. The difference, oh gorgeous line of Sri Aurobindo, listen carefully. The difference between knowledge and ignorance is a grace of the spirit. I shouldn't pride myself on my knowledge because it's grace that gave me the knowledge. Grace chose to make that one ignorant, grace chose to make me wise. But the difference between knowledge and ignorance is a grace of the Spirit. The breath of a divine power blows where it lists and fills today one and tomorrow another with the word or the puissance. If the potter shapes one pot more perfectly than another, the merit lies not in the vessel but in the maker. If in any way I am better than somebody else, it's not my doing, it's God who made me like that, right? If I look in the mirror and I feel I'm prettier than so and so, did I do anything to give myself the face? No. If I feel I'm more clever than so and so, did I do anything really? My intelligence was genetically encoded. And who encoded it? Grace. So, if the potter shapes one pot more perfectly than another, the merit lies not in the vessel but the maker. The attitude of our mind must not be, this is my strength, or behold God's power in me, but rather, a divine power works in this mind and body. And it's the same that works in all men and in the animal, in the plant and in the metal, in conscious and living things and in things apparently inconscient and inanimate. This large view of the one working in all and of the whole world as the equal instrument of a divine action and gradual self expression, if it becomes our entire experience, will help to eliminate all rajasic egoism out of us. The elimination of this form of ego leads straight towards the instrumental action, which is the action of perfect karma yoga. If ego disappears, then we can truly become not only pure instruments, consciously consenting to every turn of the divine hand that moves us, but aware of our true nature, conscious portions of the one, eternal and infinite, put out in herself for her work by the Supreme Shakti. So, in the ashram, Mother used to do a great job of shaking up the ego. For example, Amal Kiran, who was one of the most wonderful poets in the ashram, when he joined the ashram at some point, Mother gave him the job of looking after furniture. Now, you would think that a person like him, such a brilliant mind, would in our understanding, be given the better job of editing some, which of course later on he did. Fabulous. He wrote a lot. But she put him through the experience of surrendering even to looking after furniture, to realize that to write poetry in the mother's eyes is not greater than to look after furniture well. Whatever job we are given, to do it really well, and if we've done it to the best of our capacity, it's not inferior or superior to any other job. So, Mother writes, intellectually, the truth is the point where all the opposites meet and join to make a unity. So, this is a brilliant thing. Truth is the point where all opposites meet and join to make a unity. So, in my mind, suppose a color is green. In your mind, depending on the tweaking of your retina, it's blue. So it is blue for you, it's true. In my mind, it is green, it's true for me. And to say that yes, in A's mind, it is green, in B's mind, it's blue. And to say both are true, where two opposites meet, is the point of highest truth. And this is a wonderful thing to apply to our lives because very often there's conflict because in my mind, a person close to me should behave in a particular way and should do a task which will help me in my life. But suppose he or she doesn't do it because in his mind, it's legitimate not to do that task. So instead of fighting over it, you accept that, yeah, in this worldview, in my worldview, the correct thing to do is he should do the work I'm asking him to do. But in his worldview, he doesn't need to do it and it's fine. That's harmony. But disharmony comes when I feel that my worldview is correct. How can he not see that what I'm thinking is correct? But why can I not see that what he's thinking is also correct in his worldview? So that's what Mother's saying. Intellectually, the truth is the point where all the opposites meet and join to make a unity. Practically, the truth is surrender of the ego to make possible the birth and manifestation of the divine. Now, the last bit, it's a piece called True Surrender. Everything in existence comes from the divine. Everything is born from the divine, including the thoughts and emotions flowing through us in the moment. Whenever we judge something, we are really judging the divine because everything is the divine. When our infinite mind judges the outflowing of when our finite mind judges the outflowing of an infinite intelligence, there is bound to be an element of error. So everything is an unfolding of the God intelligence. It's an unfolding of an infinite intelligence. And when my finite mind tries to judge the working of an infinite intelligence, there's bound to be error, right? there's bound to be error in what I'm judging. So, however right it seems, every judgment will have some percentage of error in it. Hence, it is wonderful to drop judgments, realizing that the mind can never know fully whatever it is pretending to know. So, if I have a judgment in my mind that is perhaps spelling doom, which is perhaps spelling gloom, then there'd be great wisdom in reminding myself, don't believe it, it's only a thought. It may not be true. Mostly it's not true, right? Hence, it is wonderful to drop judgments, realizing that the mind can never know fully whatever it is pretending to know. However, what's unknown to the mind is known to the higher intelligence. True surrender is stepping fearlessly into the unknown of every moment, making peace with not knowing with the mind, yet holding on to the knowing faith, which Sri Aurobindo says in the final analysis, you need to know only two things, that you have a soul within and grace above. If you know these two, you have a soul within and grace above. You don't need to know anything else. So it's beautiful that Vedanta comes from two roots, Ved knowing, Anta, end of knowing. So when you really know that you'll never know anything correctly with your mind, you drop knowing, you come to end of knowing with your mind, and then your mind sits silently at the feet of your heart saying that I don't know. Now I'll know only if you reveal it to me. So surrender comes when I stop trying to judge anything and I make peace with I don't know, and it's okay not to know, but I'm safe because you know. And you also in Savitri, there's that gorgeous line, his knowledge overrules our nescience. His knowledge overrules our ignorance. Even if we are ignorant, his knowledge compensates for it. And somewhere else, there are these beautiful lines in Savitri. This world is an endless masquerade. A masquerade is a party where people are wearing masks. So everything in this world is wearing a mask. We don't see the real face of anything. This world is an endless masquerade. Nothing is utterly what it seems. A phenomenon stands out significant against dim backgrounds of eternity. So, whatever happens is a phenomenon and it's standing out against backgrounds of eternity. The backgrounds of eternity are dim. Everything has its source to the beginning of time, to eternity. And unless we know the cause effect chain dating back to the beginning of time, whatever we judge of a phenomena, it will be limited. So a phenomenon stands out significant against dim backgrounds of eternity. We see a part and take it for the whole, and we judge it. So it's beautiful to remember never take thoughts seriously. They are never telling us the whole truth. And then we'll say, but if I don't try to know through my thoughts, not knowing will make me agitated. That's where surrender comes, to step into the unknown of every moment, completely at peace with not knowing, because I know that the grace which is carrying me to the moment knows, and it's taking care of everything in its own way. So, with that, we'll end with three Oms. Om.